soul guidance and spirit guidance. Why I believe soul guidance should come first in our spiritual journey. My name is Eileen. I'm a soul empowerment coach, I'm a healer, a therapist, and spiritual business strategist. And one of the things that I'm very passionate about is helping people live more a soul-aligned life, like really get deeper in their work and the way that they show up and how they show up for life and be guided in life. But one of the things that I see a lot is a lot of people and a lot of healers, particularly in psychics and intuitives, that constantly give over their power to spirit guides, but don't actually have good soul guidance and soul connection with themselves. So they ask constantly from the advice from these other things on things, but they don't trust that the guidance can come in here. Now, one of the things that kind of, how could you say, highlighted that to an even greater degree is some of the things that's went on the last 4 or 5 years. And also experiences where people seem to be getting guidance, what would appear to be false light or false guides. Now, I'm not going to get into this too much because it's quite a controversial subject and it's quite a complex subject. But all I can say in this, in one level, is that my own personal experience and a lot of the experiences of healers and therapists that I know very well personally, they've had similar experiences as where when an individual has not got a really good developed intuition and soul connection and feels that connection in a channel, right, directly at a soul level, right, and feels that channel strong and is working on that, if they do that, they can be more easily confused, manipulated, and led by other things that may be not of the light, right? I've seen this in so many ways. And one of the interesting areas of, if I was putting this to a court law, for example, say this was my opinion, one of the things I've seen this is healers and therapists and psychics and intuitives telling me things in business coaching or sessions, things that would go to me, what? And you'd be thinking that you think that is of the light. And also, I'm someone who's what you would call as a highly sensitive empath, and I'm very strong intuitive, sense, feel energy in sorts of ways. But of course, how I sense is my perspective and how I see it. But one of the things that I had a lot of experiences where I could feel the healer having attachments and other things going on. And sometimes, unfortunately, it was as if something had invaded my own space and I had to deal with that. And that was a bit of a minefield. And one of the things that I noticed was a lot of healers were not exploring this enough. I had friends who were dealing with attachments, healing attachments in people daily, but didn't advertise it. And one of the things that they discovered, some of them were discovering, was as they were learning, more and more, and as they went to the teachers that taught them and they were up-leveling their skills, one of the things that they recognized, and some of them realized that it was a never-ending thing because they could only be aware and scan off in the energy and be aware of the energy of these things at the level of consciousness they were at and the level, because there was always other things going on. And I remember I had one experience where something really didn't feel right. And it was with a client, and they said this was a black angel, and it was, they were making it was a good angel, but oh my goodness, it just felt so dark. And there was something about the whole situation I found very disturbing. And I didn't discuss who the client was or anything, but I remember mentioning a friend that I've had this experience as, and it's someone that was a really experienced healer. I've had this experience, and then I went to another healer who was dealing with attachments. And I said, this doesn't, and no matter what, they couldn't, there was a few things they couldn't explain, they didn't really know what to do. And I had a lot of strange experience also after a spiritual experience I had when I had a coma and I was in hospital. And for a variety of reasons, I started going and looking at the people that were classed as some of the top people at what it really helped people with a lot of these issues. And I started studying different things. And what I discovered was that there was lots of different opinions, but one of the big things was how many people in the healing industry were constantly given their power over to things that they thought were of the light, because things sometimes can appear as the light. And one of the teachers that I worked with just at the beginning of, for example, the pandemic, Ed Stracher, who I've done, worked for quite a few years and done some of his courses. And he is somebody where you would talk about a lot of what you would call top holistic doctors in their fields, and particularly in the States and Canada and abroad, Australia, New Zealand. We're talking about people really top in their fields. He was seeing a lot of people getting a lot of psychic attack, energetic attack, and also, and he was starting to get a lot of people who were really high up in their field having experiences themselves of things that they had never experienced and couldn't shift it. But what he was also starting to see was certain types of healers that a large part of, sometimes 80–90% of his clients and customers were actually healers who had attachments, right? And advanced teachers, not, people are just doing it as a hobby or on a basic level. And one of the things was he had been saying most of them were, what he could bring me in was false light. Now he has his own opinion, and he's a certain type of, you might like him or you don't. That's sometimes people, their perspective. But he is a powerful healer, and many people that have like terminal cancers and things like that have had. He can prove it, by scans and all sorts of, somebody that the clients that easily they've got the money or the access to be able to prove their results and their benefits. But he's someone who tends to clear things very quickly for a lot of people. And one of the interesting things that he talked about is, which I totally, and it was one of the things why I was attracted to him, is a lot of the things that I believed it was something an instinctive level. And some of the things that I recognized about energy was that if you don't have good soul connection, you can't build good soul power. And it's harder to discern what's truth, fact, and what is of the light and what's of a high vibration if you've not got good soul power and soul connection. And there's lots of things can interfere with that soul connection and soul power. And if you're, for example, creating a soul-aligned business, you want to be soul guided, not egoic led all the time. You have to have that heart and soul passion and that soul guidance that is leading you to what you're supposed to do. And so a lot of that sometimes is letting go of this in our head what we think it has to be. If you truly want to do a soul-led business, you're being led by the soul. I see a lot of business coaches and a lot of people use the word soul-aligned and soul-led. Most of it is not soul-aligned at all. It's ego-led. Now, yeah, I look at some of my older business coaches and maybe some of it was not maybe explaining things clear enough and it maybe doesn't come across as that. But what, we're saying, we're in a new paradigm. And if we want to be totally soul-led, it's soul guidance. And if you don't have good, strong soul guidance and you don't trust yourself and you don't trust your intuition and you're relying on even things like, it's one of the reasons why I do think that some tools can be support people in the development of intuition and things. It's like everything. But when I see people relying on certain tools, it can, I'm not saying it can be also a sign that the person trust themselves to make that decision, and they're looking for something or something else. And I know a lot of healers and even psychics and intuitives over the last 5 years have had a bit of a dent in their confidence and self-esteem, and really had some of their own beliefs shaken by being the people who didn't see things coming, didn't see what's right in front of their nose. And to me, it's because they have very, very poor soul guidance and soul power. So they were easily hijacked by all sorts of things, right? And this is the problem. So to me, the most important thing is soul guidance. And where does soul guidance come from? It comes from good soul alignment, and it's good soul connection. Right? Now, I do have a course that I believe is the first step, the most basic foundational step to get, well, I'm not saying it's the only way, but to me, it can be a really powerful way to help you step into that, making a deeper connection at the soul level, right? And I have a course, and I will put that down. It's not an expensive course, but I do think it's a fundamental. Now, I've learned a lot of techniques from some top healers around the world that charge a lot of money, but I've combined it with my own approach because, we'll have certain ways that we feel works for whatever reasons. And you can access that. But the reality is that soul guidance is something that often makes, when you're soul guided, you make decisions that sometimes you don't know why there's no logic to it, right? Because something's guiding you and it doesn't rhyme or reason. And it's the times of the situations where you may be driving or you're out and someone guides you to go somewhere, or go to help somebody or do something that you never really, there's something. Now, of course, it can maybe come in mind, but it's when you feel that there's a power behind it. There's a strong force that seems to come out of nowhere. And sometimes it can be more subtle, but it's the way that it comes in, right? There's something, you can feel there's a surge within it. When you do that, you have a certain level of confidence that has a certain ease. I know that at the beginning of lockdown, I don't want to I've always got to watch what I see in this video, but I remember quite a few things happened to me. And I had such strong surges of, it was like a soul level coming in, said to me, no, don't do that. And don't allow them to do that. It was like this kind of. And when we build a strong inner guidance, right, the more we do, it expands. When we start shrinking and letting other people, and also other people's guides and other people's opinions and other people's stuff push that on us, we can push our own power and our own soul power. And it's one of the things that I think that at an individual level, it's about empowering the client. One of the things that I find interesting is, also my work sometimes, because, when I work with some amazing, I work with some really compassionate healers and therapists that are so inspiring. But sometimes they all have a bit of the rescuing in them, and sometimes they've read some of my story or some of the things, challenges I've faced, and they then offer in the session, like, I can help you with this, I can help you with that. And some of it comes really from, whatever, but sometimes I've had situations where people have kind of, well, I offer this, so you should be coming to me, almost like I'm buying from you, I know you, or you know me, so you should be coming to me, where that is a manipulation of power there. And it's not giving the client or the person the choice of what's right for their soul. And one of the things that I loved, I've done some Dr. Karen Cahn's courses, and she does a lot about entities, negative attachments, and things like that. And it's been quite a while ago since I've done a course. I get some of this stuff in, but I'll be honest, I just don't have the time. But one of the things that she did, and she would do with in her sessions, and also she taught her clients to do, particularly advanced courses, was that to always check in that there was permission for you to work with that soul, right? That there'd be all sorts of reasons why maybe you wouldn't be right. And I remember there was a situation where I put myself forward. I wanted to do something with it, and she was not given permission. She said no, she wasn't allowed to help me. And she said it could be that she was not the right person, or there might have been something else at that point for my soul to learn, right? Another experience, or there could be a multitude of reasons. And I had so much respect for that, because the fact that she did that was that she was making sure that, you know, that her intention was pure. And if I wasn't, you know, if she wasn't the right person, whatever. And also I offered a couple of times, you know, like some of the students are doing different types of, they're looking for case studies and things to try things out. And through those situations, again, it was the client, the students were not allowed. In one case, you know, it was fine, but it depends on what it is. And this is where I think as healers and therapists we have to get to, right? We have to get out of our ego and our need to maybe sometimes think that because we have certain tools or certain gifts that everyone that turns up in front of us is we're supposed to there to help and support. There can be all sorts of reasons why you're not the right person for that individual, and it's so important not to take it personally. One of the things that I'm so glad that through my own learning, I learned not to get, you know, that if someone doesn't want to work with me or feels that they're better suited or they would like to, it does not impact me at all, because I understand how important that is, that no one ever makes you feel obliged to go to them, right? And sometimes it's better that someone goes to someone that they don't know at all for all sorts of reasons. But also, you know, there's a lot of naivety, I do believe, in healing. You know, the healing field, for example, and, you know, we learn something and we think it's so magical and wonderful. But sometimes we don't realise that in many ways we're only scratching the surface. There's so much more. And sometimes with learning, we then get fixed ideas with them when something else comes along and challenges that beliefs, we don't know what to do. And one of the things I always say is to a lot of my therapists and students and clients, don't get too attached to your tools. Because if you get too attached to your tools, you often can't grow and evolve in the way that your soul wants you to evolve, right? So what I would urge for you is sometimes we can love things, right? I'll give you, so you can love things so much that you hang on to it and you think that that's what you're here to do. But guess what? The universe is something else that more better than you ever thought. And I'll give you an example. So I used to love aromatherapy, right? And I still love essential oils, but essential oils was something that I really enjoyed learning about. I'll be honest, I think if I had been in a different place and just to do with my health had been different, I would have probably studied naturopath or something like that. And I also really liked, I'd love to have been a full, you know, a really advanced kinesiologist or something. But I liked that kind of plants, the fact that plants have got this vibrational energy force, and the fact they've all got, and that there's so many thousands of millions of plants and of all different energy and for all different countries, all that. I love that kind of thing. But one of the things that happened, and you know, it took me many years to realize that the universe had other plans. I had it in my head, even though I was wanting to do my stress management and all this, that, you know, I loved educating people about essential oils. And one of the biggest reasons was because they were easy to get. There was something that people could apply very easy to their life. It was a great beginners, just like flower essences, they're great beginners for people that are starting their holistic, their own journey to self-responsibility. It's often starters, and then people start to realise that they have to look at themselves. You know, it's about them doing their own work, but it's great starters. So I had great passion for that. But I had to keep redoing my aromatherapy course. It was a nightmare. My health, I was trying to do something I was not physically well enough to do. And I literally would bed rest for 2 days before and 2 days after, or one day, it depends. Sometimes my health was better than others. to actually attend these courses. And I remember one of the courses, the lecturer came to me and says to me, I'm really, really sorry, Eileen, but we can't allow you to keep coming to the course because you're not well enough. You're making yourself ill. And, you know, I don't know if she'd be allowed to say that, but I knew, you know, I didn't really know at the time, but I now know she was really trying to help me. And she says, you know, you're physically struggling, you know, you can see you're mentally struggling, you know, I know you want to do this, but come back in a couple of years. But at that point in my life, I had went so many years so ill that it was just a wee bit, you know, I was getting a bit of my health back. And I didn't understand at that point that just getting a bit of my health back, I deserved more. I think there was a fear, there was an underlying anxiety that I was never going to get fully better. But anyway, I would do, I can't even remember, I lost count, different things happened. I'd done a private course with a friend of mine, and it was like more, someone was setting up a school, and they said that if me and her went to test trial this course, would get a certificate. We went for a year, we never got the certificate. So that was a bit of a nightmare. So it took me a long, long, windy road to get my qualification. And then when I started up, I wasn't physically fit to actually do the actual aromatherapy. I was exhausted. Now, quickly I became more a teacher and I used my knowledge. But it took me quite a long time to realise that I was a teacher just of supporting that self-empowerment and the natural approach. I had spent so many years trying to make that my vocation, a big strong part of my vocation. I lost sight. I wasn't listening to the soul. I wasn't watching the synchronicities, and where the universe was trying to say, no, 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 that is not for your physical well-being, right? Because I was very intuitive, and there was lots of decisions I made when I was really young that people thought I was nuts, to do with careers and to do with that. I made really good decisions and at the time, but then things would happen with my health. So when I was younger, there were some things that happened with I really went with my soul. But through a lot of other people with very controlling energies and very strong and dominant energies and other things that happen to us, you know, we all get a bit kind of tainted and kind of shaken about. I had lost some of my connection, and I was frightened also of my connection for a lot of reasons. But the reality is your soul power, your soul power, you have to have good soul alignment, first of all. You have to then have good soul connection. And your soul connection, then as soon as you get that connection and alignment sorted out, you then build up your soul power. And it's the soul power and that alignment and the connection and all those things together that help you get good soul guidance. It does not come from the head. It has to drive from the soul, right? You know, it's not like the mental mind where we're trying to analyze. It's like sometimes I'm helping clients and I can see, I can sense it. You're saying, right, check in with the heart, check in with the soul, and they're actually going to they're analyzing it. That's not what happens. It's about feeling into it, right? Now we all do things. I do things in a day that I'm away, my mind's away and whatever. But when I remember, I bring myself back. I kind of think, right, okay, Eileen, is it the ego? Is it the head? Or is this feeling from the soul, right? Now, if this is an area that you struggle with, this is one of the reasons why I have started the soul empowerment. I'm going to be doing a big soul empowerment program. But just to do with the moment, at the moment, I'm going through some physical rehabilitation and some other things. It's a bit challenging. So what I am doing at the moment, and I'm only doing this for a limited time, is a chance to work with me in a personal one-to-one level for some soul empowerment coaching and healing sessions where I will teach some of the strategies that I use to help you get more soul aligned, more soul connected and soul empowered. And it's about, you know, empowering you with areas in your life that maybe you feel you're struggling with, right? It's about increasing your intuition, your inner guidance, and not giving your power constantly just to other things or other things, to feel it more within yourself and building that up. And so you can have more clarity on a day-to-day basis, because you know, I was someone when I was younger, I would always go to sidekicks and whatever, looking for somebody else to tell me what was truth. And most of it was a whole load of rubbish. And it was bizarre guesses. When the reality is that we're all here to be soul led, right? And I thank God, I do thank God, and and I really am so glad that I have that God soul, connection. I thank God that very early, there's some things, I had a lot of experiences where I would have been put in real, even more danger than some other things that happened to me. It wasn't that my soul connection, my intuition, and this connection, I did believe in some aspect, that I followed that instead of following what other people believed to be true or what I'm trying to bully me into. And that is what soul guidance is all about. We've saw over the last 4 5 years, we're still seeing it where people are so detached from their soul connection. They can't even see what's going on right in front of their nose. They're so captured and so programmed by media, by all sorts of things, and by certain belief systems that they have went through their life basically programmed like a computer, rather than being connected to their own true nature, their own soul. And I find it quite sad sometimes because I meet some therapists that are like that. They're actually very disconnected from their intuition, and they're very compassionate and caring. And there can be a lot of trauma around that, but they're very disconnected. And the reality is, we're all here, every single person, no exception, is here to be soul led, to be guided at a soul level. They're not, we're not here to be controlled or guided by other people round about us. Of course, other people can support us. Other people can help us see blind spots sometimes and open our eyes. And I don't agree also that you can't learn from other people and other people. I think that's a myth. I do think I certainly, there's lots of teachers that are definitely more advanced and more switched on spiritually and more open and whatever than whatever I was. And if I hadn't, been able to see that, and I was never, I always find it fascinating, I find it so exciting and fascinating with people that have insights and understandings that I don't, and I want to learn. I don't see it as competitive. I don't have a problem with them, because I think but also maybe it's at a soul level. I can feel it. I can feel that they have more knowledge now. Sometimes I sign up for things and I do courses, and then I might come away thinking I don't really can believe all of that, but I got something out of that, right? I might not believe all their teachings, but they've opened some aspect. And sometimes then I realise there's another reason why I was led down that course, because it's another piece of learning that's really, really important. That is what life's about. And it's also, when we're so led, life gets more exciting, because guess what? You're not controlling it all. It's not like you're planning a holiday and you plan every detail out and it has to go this way and that's how you're going to enjoy it. That's not fun. It's the small things that happen, it's the things that happen out the way, and the ability to surrender. Because true soul guidance is that ability. Of course, you can have aligned actions and aligned maybe intentions and some kind of goals. It's, I think some of goals can be egoic, but and to some of them can be very can closes. That's what I mean. But when you are more soul aligned, I remember Lee Harris saying something, and I think I've mentioned this in another video. Lee Harris talked about that his career exploded after an event he'd been at. And the guy at the event had more or less said to some, are you really truly ready to live your mission? And are you truly ready to surrender to your mission, surrender to something bigger than you? And he said it was like most people went to step forward and then thought, oh no, no way. Because what it was talking about was you needed to be able to surrender the ego, this way of you shaping form how that you think it should be. And it's Caroline Miss talks about this, to do with sacred contracts and their soul contracts, how, you know, she talks about in the spiritual community now that there's, well, I'm only going to be a spiritual life coach, or I'm going to be a spiritual healer if I can get my whatever £50,000 a month, this, and I get that, I get the car, and I get this. That's not a bit of soul contract. That's not been soul led. That's been so focused on, you're not really in, you just want it if it comes with a certain, like a price point at a certain thing. And by having those, it's all right having, there's things you would like and what to experience and things like that. But sometimes that is stopping you in your way. I can honestly say that, there's things in my life that I wished at some point, in some level, I think, oh, I wish I hadn't had that because I maybe had nicer experiences when I was younger and whatever. But if I have to be honest, I look at my life now, and even though there's lots of challenges that, really been really challenging, and how could you say in some ways life limiting, my spiritual richness and my soul feels there's so much strength and power in that. And also excitement sometimes, because it's something that is leading, that no matter on a physical level what something impacts me, it can't get at the soul, right? When you build on that soul power, right? Because, this is the problem. People are so, even in the physical, of course, physical well-being is really important. But sometimes the ego is so focused on this physical material world and the physical aspects that we leave the soul to last and leave that inner guidance to last, when actually that's the thing that helps us sail through and feels empowered us through no matter what life deals with us. So that's why I'm so passionate about, helping people become more soul empowered. So as I said, if you need any help in this area, check some of the links below. I'm offering for a very short, limited time an opportunity to get your first session absolutely free. It's like a 40-minute, a kind of mini soul connection session with me, just to kind of get an experience of what it was, and we'll maybe explore if I'm the right person for you to work with on a one-to-one basis. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you like this video. Have a wonderful day. And remember, it starts at the soul first, and check in, where are you getting your guidance first? Are you giving over to other things, or are you truly, is it coming from a soul level? Okay, it's so, so important. And there can be a subtle, but a very important difference there. Okay,